Welcome to this comparison between the top two screencasting softwares. To start off, we might need to mention what screencasting software is used for. So, screen capture software is used for tutorials, reviews, YouTube videos, and generally any video that you want to be able to quickly produce. I would recommend this kind of software for anyone as long as you're not looking for a program to handle big size production films. So, which of these software should you use? I have been using Screenflow for creating software tutorials for 2 years now. It is an easy to use program delivering great results. However, with the new Camtasia 2018, I now have both softwares installed. Follow along in this video to get my initial thoughts about the softwares and what I would recommend for you. I will be looking at the overall feel and compare some of the key functions in order for you to get a better idea of what software will fit you the best. Let's start off by looking at the general layout. To start recording, we simply go up here and press record. You can also go into configure settings, where we can select things such as the source from the screen, the audio source, and also have the option to add sources such as a web camera. In Screenflow, you can also record the screen from an iOS device by connecting it with a USB cable. Press record and off we go. Display, webcam and audio all compressed into one software. When you're done with your recording, you simply go up here and stop recording. This will pop up a menu where you can create a new document or add to one of your existing projects. For now, we will create a new document and press OK. This will bring you straight into the software. I have now opened up another project where I show people how to change their Facebook language. I'm going to use this project to show you the basic layout and functions of Screenflow. Looking at the workspace, we can drag and drop it to make it bigger or smaller. You can also zoom in and out by using this scale, so they can be more precise in placing your playhead. We can also make single media bigger or smaller by using these arrows. Using the navigation buttons, we can play media and pause media. We can also go to the end of our project or to the beginning of our project. Up in the right corner, we have all our actions and buttons that we can use to change our media. So if I select one of my media points by clicking on it, I can perform different actions such as video actions, audio actions, video motions, screen recording options, callouts, touch callouts, annotations, and text effects. We're gonna go back and look at this later, but for now we're gonna go and have a look at the basics of Camtasia. Welcome to Camtasia. I have just stopped the recording and this is what it will look like. The project will open up and this is the overview. So let's compare this to Screenflow. As you can see, it's quite similar. We have a bit of a darker feel, but otherwise it's quite similar. We can drag and drop our working space to make it smaller or bigger. And we can also zoom on our workspace to make it smaller or bigger there as well. Other than this, we can make our track higher or smaller by adjusting on this slider and make it smaller or bigger. We can find our first difference here, because in Screenflow you can only make one track at a time smaller or bigger, while here in Camtasia you need to apply the effect to all your current tracks. However, in Camtasia you can make them way bigger than what you can do in Screenflow, and this is really helpful when dealing with things like audio spikes. Other than this, you have your navigation up here, which is also a little bit different. We have the play and pause, of course, but we can also go to our next media or the previous media, which will help you navigate the project easily. We also have a function that we can use to move to the next frame. So when you have to do a very specific targeting for a track time, to maybe split your media or add another effect, then you can use this to click to the next frame and make sure that you hit the exact correct spot to add your function. Other than this, up in the left corner, you have your different effects that you can add to your project. In Screenflow, we have them on the right side. So we also have a library. This is something that is missing from Screenflow, and in the library we can find different icons that we can use, and we can also find things like intros and motion backgrounds that we can use. And I think this is really cool, because if you want to have this in Screenflow, then you need to go to a third party and probably have to pay for it as well, while Camtasia has decided to include all these different nice intros and different media stuff that you can use in your projects for free. Other than this, you have your annotations, where we can find our callouts and texts, arrows, shapes, blurs and highlights, sketch motions, and also keystroke callouts. We also have transitions and behaviors. Behaviors can be added to text and to your added annotations. So other than this, we have quite similar looks as we have in Screenflow. And the functions here are mostly available in Screenflow as well. However, there is a different logic between adding them in Screenflow and adding them in Camtasia. For now, let's jump back to Screenflow and have a look at adding some functions there to our Facebook project. So we are back in Screenflow, ready to add some actions and effects. To start off, I want to add my intro to this video. I will simply pull this away so that I make room for my intro. Then I have to add my media, so I go up in the right corner, and as you can see, my media is already here. What I would have done otherwise, I will have to remove that. I will add media, and on my desktop I have my intro added. So I will open it up, import it into the library, and just drag and drop it on my timeline. Next up, I might want to have a transition between the intro and the media file. So I will mark both of these, the webcam and the screenshot, and just drag it on top of my intro. And as you can see, the A symbol will appear. That means we have a transition. So just by dragging this on top of the other media, we get a transition, and depending on how much I drag it over, I can decide how long the transition should be. Pressing on the A symbol, I get a different transitions I can use. Unfortunately, most of the transitions in Screenflow don't look very professional, and I don't really like them at all. So what we can use, it's dip to white, cross dissolve, and circle wipe. Those are the three I would recommend to you. So let's go for the cross dissolve, and as you can see, we now have an intro. Next up, I want to add some text. So once I start talking, so around here, I would like to add text. So we'll go up to text box, and I will add a text. As you can see, this pops up on the timeline, and the text is now there. However, I don't just want the text to appear in my clip, so I will have to edit this. First off, I will enter the text. So this is a video on how to change your Facebook language. And I'm also gonna change the Facebook language into a pirate language, something that Facebook has introduced. So, awesome pirate language in Facebook. With that done, I mark my media and can now drag it. So the effect I want to have is I want to have this show up from the left side. So I'll do like this, and then I have to add a video effect. So I will place the marker, and around here with the playhead, I want the text to be in the middle of the screen. So what I have to do is add a video effect, and add that. As you can see, if I zoom in on the timeline, the effect is now added to the text. So by the end of this, I want my text, let's mark the text and drag it in. I want my text to be in the middle. I also want to decrease the size of my text, so I go into the text properties, and I can change the size, the font, and other things. I can arrange the text in the middle and get help by these lines. And if you now see, we go back and play the media, the text will drop in. As you see, the text moves very fast, so what I want to do next is just drag this out a little bit, and the text will now go in a little bit smoother. I can also add different things to the text, like a backdrop, a different color backdrop, and stuff like that. So you can play and basically edit text most ways. So we are back in Camtasia, and I will now do the same steps. So I will import the intro, I will add a transition, and I will add some text and some text effects. So to start off, I will go up to media and press plus sign to import the media. I will select my intro and open it. It's imported into the project, and I can now make some room by dragging this out of the way and put it in there. Just like in Screenflow, this will just snap into place to make it work nice. Now if I want to add a transition, I will go to transitions and select a transition that I would like to use. So I will just select the fade, and I can just apply it to the media. So this is the difference. In Camtasia, we apply effects to our timeline and our media, where in Screenflow, we create them, in this case by dragging the media on top of each other. So I have added my transition. It's time to add my text as well. So when the intro is done, I want the text to pop in. So I go to Annotations, I select which kind of text I want to use from the basic ones, and I will just go with some regular text. And just like before, I drag it onto the timeline. I click in my text so I can select what I want it to say. So, awesome pirate language in Facebook. Just like before, I will just position this the way I want it. And over here, I have the preferences, or the properties like they call it. So I can select my font, my size, and my color. Something like that. I can select a theme that I have created before so that I can keep a consistent style on my text throughout the project. We can also do different alignments and styles. If you want to add a backdrop, it's a little bit more difficult in Camtasia than what it was in Screenflow. However, what is easier is adding a behavior, so I can drift it or something, fly in. That's the way we had it in Screenflow. So I will just apply this by putting it on top of my media, and the text will now by itself fly in. So that's a bit easier than Screenflow, where I had to do the animation myself. Here I can just apply an effect, which will make it go faster. So we have now added these effects in Camtasia as well. So let's go back to Screenflow and add some functions. Next up, I want to make it clearer what I do in Facebook to change these settings. To do that, I will add a zoom effect. So I will zoom out on my timeline, and I know that somewhere around over here, I will be in the settings. So I select the media that I want to add this effect to, and then I go to a callout. So I'll add a callout for this media. So I add the action, and I can see it should be around here somewhere. So we'll drag it over, and then I will change the properties because the callout right now is a little bit small. So I will up the border to make it bigger, and I will also create some zoom so that we can see what we're doing. I will play, and the callout now follows what I'm doing as I go into settings. I will just arrange the playhead by zooming in a little bit. I can be more precise in what I'm doing. And right about there, I want to stop. So I will drag the action down, and we now have a callout action showing how we're getting into the settings of Facebook. Next up, I would also like to add a zoom effect to make it clear what I'm doing inside of the settings. So as soon as I click language, I would like to zoom in on that. This is a video action. So we go to video, add action, and just like before, it's now dropped on the timeline. And by the end of this action, I'm just gonna drag it out to make it a little bit smoother and not zoom in as fast. And at the end of this, I want the media to have been scaled up to around this, showing that I'm clicking on language. Just like this. This would then follow along and be zoomed in until I make a change. And as we can see here, I'm going up and changing the language settings. So I want the zoom to follow. This means I have to add another action, and by the end of this action, I want the view to be placed over here instead. Then I play again, and it will follow me. So this was adding the zoom effect, adding the text effect, an intro, and a transition in Screenflow. Let's go over and do the same thing in Camtasia. So back in Camtasia, we're gonna add the same effects. We're gonna add the cursor effect and the two zoom effects to properly show what we are doing to change the language in Facebook. So I'm gonna use this to align myself for the first action. It's gonna be somewhere around here when I go into settings, over here. Yes, that's where I wanna start. So in order to add my cursor effect, I need to select a screen recording that has been made through Camtasia. And it's the same thing with Screenflow. If you want the screen actions to work, you need to have made the recording through the software. Otherwise, they won't be able to follow your cursor. So I would go to more on the effects. And as you can see, we have some things that I didn't mention, among them cursor effects. So we click cursor effects and select what effect we would like to have. And for now, it's a cursor magnify. So I will add that effect onto this recording, and the effect have been added. We also have effects for left click, and for right click. What I now want to do, as you can see, the effect has been added. However, I need to adjust the time of this effect, because as it is now, it will be all over this media, and that won't work. So I want it to start right here. I can zoom in a little bit to make it easier for myself. And what I then need to do is just pop up the effects. And we can see I have the cursor magnify. So I need to drag this, make it start where I want it to start, and then make it end where I want it to end. So over here. And this is a perfect time to use the keyframes. So this is the last frame, and I got the time correct. So let's just adjust like that. And the first effect is added. I now need to find the next, and that's adding the language. So what I want to do there is to add a zoom, just like we did in Screenflow. So I go to, I need to go to behaviors, animations, there we go. So we have a bunch of different animations to choose from over here that we can use. However, for now it's a zoom and pan, and that's ready to use right off the bat. So I will zoom in, and then I can drag to adjust the area. I can also use this one. So I want it to be on language. So we'll be zoomed in on language until I say stop. And that's about here. I want it to go up. So I will simply drag this one over here. I will just zoom it out a little bit as well. And I'm happy again. In Screenflow, we changed how quickly we zoomed in, and we can do that here as well, of course. So you can see it has added this small animation. These are the animations we did manually in Screenflow, and I can just drag these to make them further and therefore zoom in slower, or I can make them shorter to zoom in faster. For now, I will go with the default setting. So we'll follow up here, we'll edit, all looks good. And I can see here that we need to go down. So by the time we have reached this area, I want to be down there, so I will go down. And we can see, looks good. Okay, so this is the frame where I want to go back to the original size. So I can do actual size and scale to fit, or I can go back and do an animation that is restore. For now, since we used this before, I will scale, and it's done. So we have added these effects, and we're now done. Looking at the animations, we have a bunch to choose from, where we do not in Screenflow. However, the restore effect exists in Screenflow as well. I just didn't use it previously. But we have a bunch of other, like opacity effects, tilt effects, and different scale effects. If we want to do like in Screenflow, where we create our own animation, we drag a custom animation down on the timeline, click on the end of the animation, and select what should have happened. We want it to rotate, or what should happen. And how I did it for my small video, so I will make it for the big screen recording as well, and go to media effects and rotate it. So it's kind of like the same thing we're doing in Screenflow. Just in Camtasia, we also have the option to have the software do it for us, so that we can make it a little bit easier and faster, just like we did with the text. Okay, we have now created the same project in these two different softwares, and it's time for me to say what I will be continuing on and using. And for me, that software will be Camtasia. The reason for this is because I can find the same actions in Camtasia as I can do in Screenflow, but I can add them directly onto the timeline instead of having to create them myself. This will make me save time when creating my projects, and I also think that the effects and the media library in Camtasia will make my videos look more fun and be more interesting to watch. This will help in creating YouTube videos and creating interesting content. However, I do not say that I don't recommend Screenflow. I still think Screenflow is a great software that I have been using for 2 years now. Using this software, we'll be able to create quick content that you can use for internal knowledge banks or YouTube videos as well. So in the end, it's up to you and what you like. Please consider using the links down below to get more information from the providers and to be able to download these softwares straight away. Thank you for watching this video, and if you have any comments, please write them below and we will answer. Also remember to subscribe if you're interested in more content from us. Thank you for watching.